All right. So you probably have to hit a yes and take it away.
All right. How you doing, everybody? Thanks for coming. As Rachel said, questions are encouraged and hop in anytime with a question. And every question is a good question, so don't be shy. Um, but you're here for College Essays Demystified. So what we're going to do tonight is just kind of give you an overview of how to go about, what colleges look for in these essays and how to go about doing them. And we have our little tagline here: "Stop worrying, start writing." Important to stop worrying and just be relaxed about the whole process. So if we can uh, be of some help in alleviating anxiety, then we're happy to do that. So I'm going to get started. And again, feel free to hop in with a question at any point. So hold on, go. All right. So there are two distinctly different types of essays. The personal statement, which is one essay, and these supplementals, which are several, it could be several essays. It depends on what colleges you're applying to and, how many colleges you're applying to, but I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Um, so the personal statement, that is an important essay because it goes out to almost every college, whereas the supplementals just go out to each particular college that you're applying to. And the personal statement is it's really a storytelling exercise. We like it to have a narrative feel. So pretend you're writing a story and you are the protagonist. You're the lead character in that story. So we want it to be descriptive, as creative as possible. Not all of you, I'm sure, enjoy writing, and sometimes people who don't fancy themselves to be writers get nervous about the personal statement. And I guess my answer to that is if you can just, all you have to do is just write clearly. It doesn't have to be like a creative masterpiece. If it doesn't have to be like the next Ernest Hemingway piece. You just want to tell a clear story that gets your personality across. That's the key. It's not so much about accomplishments in school or activities you've done. It's more about like picking a story or stories to write about that brings your personality out, that gets to the heart of your character. You have to look at the personal statement as uh, kind of an opportunity to humanize your application. It's it puts a human face on everything, and we kind of want the admissions office to feel like they've gotten to know you as a person a little bit after reading this essay. So again, show off your writing skills, and as I said, if writing is not your favorite thing to do, just show off your writing skills and just trying to convey your points very clearly. And if you've done that, it's mission accomplished. Um, no need to focus on school or extracurriculars. You could certainly write an essay about an extracurricular, but it can uh, as I said, this isn't as school oriented. It's more just trying to get at the heart of your character. So if you like, I don't know, if you like enjoy 3D printing, you could write an essay on that. If you enjoy reading, you could write an essay on that. It's really just a focus on personal experiences. If you're of, say, Indian heritage. You can write about you trying to keep in touch with your Indian heritage while living in America. So you can write, just again about personal experiences. It's not like an academic oriented um, essay. And the best personal statements are they're kind of conversational. The tone isn't too formal. You kind of want to look at it like you're having a conversation with the admissions office. And if it has that informal, casual tone, all the better, though we still want the writing to be, good and clean and no grammatical errors. So, all right, so that's a personal statement, and that is a 650 word essay. The supplementals are much different. Just the facts, ma'am. It's just basically this is the essay where you get to talk. These are the essays where you get to talk about your accomplishments in school, your academic goals for college, your career aspirations for the future. We still want the writing to be good, but these essays do not have to be as creative. It's a more neutral tone for very straightforward writing. We don't want it to be boring, but we just kind of want to get to the point, and the information you're conveying is the key here. So again, you often explain your academic and career goals. Some of these essays are going to require, at least one of these essays, the why this school essay is going to require research about the school. We'll get into that later. And a wide variety of word lengths. As I said, the personal statement, 650 words. Supplementals, uh, I would say on average, they range from 2 to 300 words, though there are some for some schools that are 50 words. There are others that, you know, on the high end, it can go as high as 600 words. So there is a variety, but usually it's in the 200 to 300 word pocket, which isn't a lot of words. And that's all the more reason just to keep you writing straightforward and just get to the point because you don't have a lot of words to work with these. So that in a nutshell is the difference between these two types of essays. And actually the number of supplementals you'll have to write will depend on the school. Um, University of Iowa, for instance, requires 0 supplemental essays, just a personal statement. Stanford, on the other hand, requires 9 supplemental essays. So it varies widely from school to school. All right. So get personal. What's it mean? So this is about the personal statement. So, what the personal statement essay is not. It's not a term paper or a research paper. It's not like that history paper you might have written your sophomore year in high school on King Henry VIII that was strictly supposed to be 5 paragraphs, and the first paragraph was supposed to do this, second paragraph this, third paragraph that. It's not a term paper. It's more of a story, the story of you. It's certainly not a resume or a list of accomplishments. We don't want a personal statement that just goes through and tells us all the things you've done in school. That's not what this exercise is about. It's not a list. We want it to be very, very personal. It's not your entire life story because obviously you wouldn't be able to fit that into 650 words. So you're just going to pick, one characteristic, 2 characteristics. Maybe you have very strong leadership skills, or maybe you're very empathetic, and those are, your strongest qualities. So you want to just kind of come up with a story or a couple stories that you can build around those personality traits. So we don't have to get everything about you into this. We just want to pick 1 or 2 things that are important. And you kind of got to look, it's the personal statement in a way. It's you're marketing yourself, so you want to come across as likable and you want to come across, we want the school to read this and be like, wow, this is a great kid. We really want this kid as part of our student body. So you always want to accentuate the positive in when talking about your life and minimize negative aspects. It's not an opportunity to show you own a thesaurus. Like I said, the writing can be simple. We want it to be conversational. Uh, they can spot from a mile away a an essay that you know, where you're just trying too hard to write above your level and toss out all these huge words that aren't part of your everyday vocabulary. So just kind of be you. That's the key to the personal statement. We want it to be authentic. And I'm going to add one more bullet point to this. We now live in the world of AI. Do not, under any circumstances, turn to AI in writing these essays. A lot of these schools have like AI detectors software that they run these essays through, and so if your essay comes up is likely being written by AI, it's just you're just automatically going to be uh, disqualified from the application process at that school. So just be very mindful of that. And I know AI has become a big part of life and getting bigger. But for these essays, do not turn to AI in any way to help you write these. All right. So what's a personal statement do? As I said earlier, it goes out to almost all of the colleges. There are a couple that don't or a handful that don't take the personal statement, but usually that's like the one essay that's going to go out everywhere, and that's why another reason it's an important essay. It you know there are 900 colleges worldwide. Most of them, at least most of the ones in America, uh, almost all of them in America, rely on that personal statement. In some cases, that might be the only essay required for the school. So it is important. And it's good to view this as an opportunity. It's an opportunity to introduce yourself as a person. A good way to view it is more of a first date than a job interview. Um, we as I said, we want your personality to come through. The best essays are the ones that really read authentically. Don't write an essay based on what you think the admission office wants to know hear, because we don't really know what the admissions office wants to hear. You don't know who's specifically reading the essay. You don't know what buttons are good to push for that person, obviously. You don't know necessarily what the school is looking for in a given year. So your best bet is just to write an essay that is uniquely you and kind of let the chips fall where they may. But if you write that authentic type of essay, it's a job well done, and it will increase your chances of getting into the school. You want to connect with the admissions officers on an emotional level. As I said before, you want to come across as likable. We want the person who reads it, we want them to root for you. And when everybody's gathering to find out who or to decide who they're going to send acceptances to, we want the person who's read your application to advocate for you. So, if you can if you can write an essay where you feel like it's going to make an emotional connection, then that is the name of the game. Show your intellect and ambition, especially for elite institutions. Again, you're not necessarily going to do this by describing all the activities you've done. That's for the supplementals. But we just want to get the strength of your character across in this, that you're just again, that you're a fine person that would be a good ambassador for this school once you've graduated, and a good member of the student body while you're there. And they also want to be sure that you're the type of person who's going to make it through the whole 4 years there. So we really want to get the strength of your character across. Uh, Show off your writing skills, get them to imagine you. So much like when you're reading a novel, or you kind of imagine what the protagonist looks like, or what he or she is feeling. You want them to feel that way when they're reading your essay. But again, this doesn't have to be that you don't have to be the second coming of Ernest Hemingway. The writing does not have to be artful if you don't feel like you have that in you, but you can still convey, everything you need to convey without it being over the top creative. So if you don't fancy yourself to be a great writer, don't let that add stress to it. All you have to do is write a clear essay, because I've worked with a lot of students over the years, and some students get stressed out about the personal statement just because they're not creative writers, and you don't have to be. So that's why I keep stressing that point over and over. So all right. Who reads these essays? Know your audience. The good news is they're typically recent graduates of the institution. So they might be 23, 24 years old. That's good news for you, because uh, you'll likely be writing about an experience you had when you were, 16, 17, and they're not far away from being 16 and 17. So they'll really be able to identify with what you're talking about and connect with it more so than an old guy like me, who's reading it and was 16 so long ago that I can't even remember being 16. So that's good news for you. They community members, they're service institutionally minded, meaning, they're often altruistic people, meaning that they like to do good in the world, and they're looking for kids who share that sensibility, who want to go out there and make a positive impact in the world. So they're highly knowledgeable about their schools. That kind of goes without saying, because they work there. So uh, that's more of a factor with the supplemental essays than the personal statement, um, that aspect of it. And this is very important. They're already familiar with the rest of your application. So really that kind of gets to the heart of what the personal statement's all about. It's kind of, as I said earlier, it's your chance to put a human face on your application. It's really your opportunity to show them and tell them something about yourself that isn't evident in the rest of your application, and that's really the best way to view it. It's just a new wrinkle you can bring to your application, and all things being equal, if you do a nice job with your personal statement, that can often be what pushes you over the top. So all right. So this is kind of like the basic way, bare bones outline for setting these up. There's no set way to set them up, but this structure usually works pretty well. Uh, Part one, tell a story. We like to I don't want to say that part one, which is actually the introduction, I don't want to say that is the most important part of the personal statement, but it is very important because it's your opportunity to pull in the reader, grab their attention, and make them want to read on to see what happens to the main character being you. They, just we want to grab their attention and make them want to learn more about you. The reality is you're probably going to spend, several hours writing this thing. And unfortunately, whoever reads it is going to spend about 3 minutes max reading it because they're going to have a stack of essays this high that they're going through. So you really want to pull them in with uh, that introduction. And usually we use a little anecdote, telling a story, a little 100-word anecdote or so to draw them in. So write novelistically, make yourself a character. Again, you're telling a story and you're the main character. Include as many sensory details as possible. That's what great storytelling does. It really, you want to set the scene, and just, uh, it's not enough to just say, well, I was really nervous about my first day on the job, but then I felt great afterwards, that we want to show and not tell. So rather than saying that, describe how you were being nervous, your knees were kind of knocking together as you were sitting at your desk on the first day of your job. You were afraid to ask any questions, but then, so you want details rather than telling us you were nervous or telling us you were excited about something. Show us how you were through sensory details. I've always found that dialogue is a good thing to include in these essays because it really it puts it in a storytelling type of mode. So just as you see dialogue in a novel you're reading, don't be afraid to put dialogue in your own personal statement. It's something where appropriate, of course, but it is something that can really bring your essay to life. So that's your introduction. The second part is kind of where you're introducing your theme. So what does this story that you've just told tell us, this little anecdote that you've begun your essay with? What does it tell us about you? What character trait do you want to highlight? Why do you value that character trait? And this is a rather short part of the essay, but you're hammering home the character trait, or your theme that you're trying to get across. It could be, again, that you're an empathetic person, and that's what the whole essay is going to be about, or you want to just show that you're a leader. Um, you know, um, so this is where you really introduce, in an explicit manner, the character trait that you're trying to highlight. So the third part, or the meat of the essay, which is usually about 400 words or so, is this is where you tell your story. It could be, or if you don't have a full story to write on a particular subject, you can just do like two or three examples that demonstrate your leadership. So this is kind of where you expand on everything. Um, and then the fourth part is we like to end these essays by kind of pointing them toward the future. Uh, Presumably in this essay, you're going to have learned a lesson. You're going to show growth. You're going to show lessons learned. Really, that's what you're trying to do with this essay, show how you've grown in some particular manner. So you want to point that forward in the fourth part of the essay and just kind of show how this trait of yours, this leadership trait might manifest, might show itself in college looking forward. How is this trait going to help get you through life in college and beyond? And that's often a good way to end this. And then the last sentence or two of the essay, I view that as being actually almost as important as the introduction, because it's the last impression you're leaving with the reader. So you kind of want to end the story with a bang. I've spent most of my career with as a journalist, and whenever I write a feature story on something, I try to write kind of a clever ending that just kind of put a lot of emphasis on how I end it, um, because I want the reader to remember this story. And again, this is like the last impression you're leaving. And a good technique with that last sentence or two is to kind of wind back to your introduction or the first part and kind of end it that way, circle back to that. But kind of want, your ending doesn't have to be your last sentence or two doesn't have to be profound, but you do want it to be memorable in some way. So you really want to focus on that ending as well. All right. So any questions so far? All right. I will carry on then. All right. So additional essay resources. Johns Hopkins has an outstanding essay archive of that if you just kind of want to look at like um, what makes a successful essay, go into the archive and read a few of them, and um, can be helpful. But I always warn my students not to spend too long looking at other people's essays because it winds up psyching them out because these essays in the Johns Hopkins Essay Archive are the best of the best. So they can psych you out and you'll be like, well, I'm never going to be able to write an essay that good. So, and then you get writer's block. So don't do too deep of a dive into any essay archive, but it is good to look at a few just to see how they're structuring them. But I'll leave that at that. All right. So that in a nutshell is kind of the personal statement and what we're trying to do with that. Now we're going to move on to the supplemental essays, which, as I said at the beginning of this, are a completely different beast. Supplemental essay goes out to one school. As I said, uh, some schools, on average, I would say schools require one or two supplemental essays. Some require zero, and as I said, schools like Stanford require nine. There are if you're applying to California public schools, they're very unique. So like University of California, Irvine, or UCLA, or University of California, Berkeley, they're all part of the California system. And they're very unique in that they don't take a personal statement. They don't accept a personal statement. You just write four kind of short essays that they provide, and those are the essays that you use. So that's a little different than everything else. But in general, you have your personal statement, and then based on the schools you're applying to, you'll have, probably a handful of supplementals, and these are very focused, tailored to the institution, which is why you want to do some research. Um, especially for like the why this school, just kind of get to read about the school, go to their website, tour around the website if you haven't had a chance to visit it. You just kind of every school has its own ethos, its own personality, and you want to get an idea of what that is before you start writing an essay for that institution. You know, uh, like University of Chicago kind of looks for outside the box thinkers. It's very much uh, it's very much in the Chicago area, the two elite. Whoops, there we go. Um, The two elite schools in the two most elite schools in the Chicago area are University of Chicago and Northwestern, and they couldn't be more different. University of Chicago, like I said, is really looking for outside the box thinkers and pure learners, whereas Northwestern is much more career oriented. They really gear you toward your career, and have fantastic internship programs and all of that. So I guess that's what I mean when I say that each school has its own personality, and University of Chicago and Northwestern are two good examples of that. So, all right, what is a supplemental essay? All right, so repeat offenders, why this school? We'll get to that in a second. Why this major? We'll get to that. So as I said, this is your chance to talk about the supplementals, are your chance to talk about your activities and more serious academic oriented goals. So often a common supplemental topic is um, they want you to write about an extracurricular activity that's meaningful, and they want you to describe why. Uh, um, so, um, or they might want you to describe something from your background that's meaningful. Could be your ethnicity, your ethnic background, or your religion, and you know. The Supreme Court, did rule that, schools can't take ethnicity into account when looking at students, but they are very interested in diversity. They're interested in getting people from diverse backgrounds. So essays are, if you fall into that category, essays are a good way to get that in. If you're of, you know, Indian descent, that might be a great thing to write about for your background, and it's as I said, schools embrace diversity. So, all right, lots of different schools as supplementals overlap. So there's some strategy in doing these. You can repurpose a lot of content. Like you might have like four different schools that you're applying to that have an essay asking you to write about like an extracurricular activity. The prompt just might be slightly different, so you have to tweak it a little bit, but you can repurpose a lot of that content, and the word count might be different, but always be thinking of that. It's with supplementals, it's not necessary to reinvent the wheel every time out. You want to think about ways you can use content that you've already used. Because again, with the supplemental, it's written for a particular school. So if you write a supplemental for the University of Michigan and you write one for the University of Wisconsin, the University of Michigan's not going to know what you wrote for the University of Wisconsin. So you can repurpose that content. So, don't be afraid to do that. It'll make your life easier. All right. I've found over the years that the essay that kids seem to struggle with the most is the why this college essay, and that's a very common. Why do you want to attend Notre Dame, or why do you want to attend University of North Carolina? It's a very common topic, and that has to be very very specific and unique and tailored to the particular school. The reason a lot of kids have problems writing this essay is that they wind up writing something that's too general, too generic. They write something that can an essay that could really be applied to any school rather than that particular school. You know, um, if you end the why this college essay by saying, I can't think of a better place to spend my next 4 years, That's very generic. You could say that about any school. You want to make it unique to the school and unique to you. Basically, you want to show why you are a good fit for the school. So how do you do that? It's going to require research. You can do most of the research on the school's website. Um, invoke stuff like uh, in your field of study. Go look at the course catalog, maybe pinpoint a couple undergraduate classes that interest you and you think will help get you where you want to go. Tell us why you want to take this course. Look at the professor bios. Maybe there's like a professor who has a background that resonates with you because they've done something that you want to do. So mention them. Uh, Extracurriculars that they have. That's that mention some that are a good fit for you. Uh, so these are the things you want to like pick out things that the school offers and show how they're a good fit for you and how the school's philosophy in general is a good fit for you. You want to avoid things like, as we say here, the rankings. They already know what they're ranked. The people are nice. That's very general. Avoid location. I've seen a lot of kids write, say they're applying to the University of California, Santa Barbara. They say they'd love to study there because it's a beautiful campus. Well, I mean, we need to say something more substantial than that. So avoid location oriented stuff unless it somehow applies to what you want to study. So draw connections. Every detail about the school should tell the school something about you. Um, so again, if you're talking about like you know um, a professor or a class you want to take, uh, show us why that class is important to you fulfilling your goals. So again, specifics, details are the key to making the why this college essay unique to you. All right. So the why this major, there's a kind of a straight why this major question that you can repurpose from school to school. And it's just what, it's a very simple prompt. Why do you want to, why have you chosen your given major? So that's very easy to set up. You just have a kind of a colorful one sentence introduction that kind of shows why, shows overview of why you're interested in this school. Then the next section is what sparked your interest. Most important section is how you've developed that interest. Could be through classes, extracurriculars, summer programs you did, or you know, uh, stuff you've done on your own, which I always think is great because it shows that you're a self-starter. For instance, maybe you want to major in business and you've watched every TED talk out there by business leaders just so you can get a feel for what makes a good business leader. That's great stuff. It's not like an official extracurricular or something, but it just kind of shows that you're a self-starter, and that's always a good thing to get across. So, talk about major projects you've done, give details, give some of the jargon, and really just you want your passion for the major that your prospective major. You want your passion for that subject to really come out in the essay. Um, there are like different prompts. Sometimes it'll be, why do you want to study this major? Why do you want to study biology at the University of Michigan? So that's actually a why this college essay disguised in disguise. So you want to read like, because you're going to have to talk very specifically about the University of Michigan because they're asking, why do you want to study this subject at this school? So you want to read the prompts very carefully. And actually, in general, with supplementals, very important to just answer every part of the prompt that they're they're asking. That's actually more important than with the personal statement. So, all right, and that actually brings me to prompts. I'm going to quickly run through the prompts for the personal statement, and really, whatever you write about, you'll be able to find a prompt that works for it. So these prompts for the personal statement are just kind of guides. This is a very common one. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent so meaningful they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, please share your story. This is very common because it essentially gets to the heart of what you are attempting to do with these essays, kind of show something about yourself that isn't apparent anywhere else on the essay. So if you have like an ethnic heritage that you want to write about, perfect prompt for that. I've had many students write about that. If you have an interest, maybe you know, kind of an interest that isn't evident anywhere else on your um, application, but kind of defines you in some way. Perfect. So a lot of kids choose prompt one for their personal statement. Prompt two is also fairly common, and I've always kind of been a sucker for this one. I always like the overcoming adversity type of essay because uh, kids are really kind of forced to write very honestly, and these essays just naturally show growth because they're showing you overcoming an obstacle. And really, that's another object of the personal statement, is to show growth. So the lessons we take from obstacles we encounter can be fundamental to later success. Recount a time when you faced a challenge, setback, or failure. How did it affect you, and what did you learn from the experience? One note on this, and really on any of these essays, as I had said earlier, you want to focus on the positive, and that's especially important for the overcoming obstacles essay, prompt two. So you want the obstacle itself, the setback, the failure, whatever it is, we want that to be like this much of the essay. What's important is how you reacted to that obstacle. So the steps you took to to get past that obstacle. That's what's important to recount. We want that to be this much of the essay. So the failure of the challenge itself is just a small part. The bigger part is kind of showing the ways you overcame that obstacle. So very important. All right. Three, reflect on a time when you questioned or challenged a belief or idea. What what whoops what prompted your thinking? What was the outcome? This is not common, um, but it's just um, and it can be, it's the same with four, three and four, kind of lumped together a little bit. Reflect on something that someone has done for you that has made you happy or thankful in a surprising way. How has this gratitude affected or motivated you? These are uh, they're tricky because sometimes you might wind up writing more about uh, the idea you challenge than yourself, or you might write with prompt four, you might wind up writing more about the person that you're thankful for helping you than writing about yourself. And you always want to keep these personal statements focused on you and what you've done, less than what others have done. So that's why it's called a personal statement. It's about you. So I don't often see students doing these two prompts, but occasionally. All right. Five, discuss an accomplishment, event, or realization that sparked a period of growth. So this is kind of like the overcoming obstacle one without the obstacle. So it's not necessarily that you overcame something, but there's some pivotal moment in your life that helped you grow. And that's again, that this is a pretty common prompt, because this is a pretty common type of essay, an event. Maybe you uh, uh, took a summer job for no other reason that it paid pretty decently, and you didn't really think about it at all. You just kind of figured you'd clock in and clock out, but the job wound up being one of the most influential things you've ever done, much to your surprise. That would be a good sparking personal growth type of essay. All right, 6, describe a topic, idea, or concept you find so engaging it makes you lose all track of time. Why does it captivate you? What or who do you turn to when you want to learn more? So this is just something you do where, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, everybody's asleep, but you're in front of your computer, your 3D printer, designing an iPod holder or something because you just get so engaged in this. And so you want to pick something, a hobby that is just so meaningful to you and describe why. And just want to add something that kind of goes with this prompt, but in general, a lot of kids feel like they get nervous about the personal statement because they think it has to be some big grandiose thing like your house burned down or something. It has to be some really compelling story. And most of us don't have something like that that's happened in our life. So it doesn't have to be a big dramatic thing. It can be um, a small thing, and often the smaller things are good to write about, and they reveal something about you. And I bring that up here because I had a student several years ago who did this prompt, and she wrote her essay about reading, how much she likes to read. Now, on the surface, you're like, wow, that's kind of a boring topic. How can you write an entire essay on how much I like to read? It wound up being great. Through that essay, she kind of, by telling us what books she loves and why they had influenced her, she kind of revealed key parts of herself. She revealed, what her values are, what she hopes to accomplish in life, the kind of person she is and wants to become. It wound up being a beautiful essay, and she wound up getting into a really good school. So, again, it can be a subtle little topic, but um, so all right. So the 7, I kind of call it the escape hatch essay. Say you have written an essay that's very unique, and doesn't fit into any of these first 6 prompts. You can just uh, throw it into prompt 7, share a topic, share an essay on any topic of your choice. Obviously it kind of has to fit within the parameters of what we're trying to accomplish in a personal essay, a personal statement, what I've been talking about, but it can be, kind of a unique topic. And I've found that usually um, kids whose essays wind up in 7 are more creative types, kid who's gonna major in filmmaking or creative writing in college or something. They kind of write a personal statement that's kind of off the beaten path a little bit, and it winds up in prompt 7. So those are the various prompts. And the important thing is, just to find a good topic to write about, and then just write your personal statement about that topic. And when you're done, just find a prompt that it works with. These prompts are just kind of guides. For the supplementals, as I said, the prompts are very important. You want to answer every part of the prompt. But for these, just kind of look at each prompt as kind of a guide to get you on your way. So, I think that they're in that does it. That is the end of the presentation. So does anybody have any questions? Or was my presentation so dazzling it left you speechless?
So I'll just once again invite folks, if you would like to ask a question, you can jump in you know, on mic or put the question in the chat. Either one is totally fine.
All right. Well, doesn't necessarily look like there are any questions, but I hope this was helpful and um,
Oh,
it is
there is one.
recorded.
There is one.
Oh,
So, so there's a question about what universities see from the application in terms of extracurricular activities and courses. So, I know this isn't necessarily your area, Will, but can you talk a little bit about how the universities are going to see that other like super basic information that's not going to be included in the essay?
yeah. Almost every school, actually, I would say every school, along with for on the common application, they're going to ask for a personal statement, and they're also going to ask for like an activities list, which is you know, kind of a resume, just a list of your activities. So that is where that information will come out, and that is partially why with your personal statement, we don't want it to just like wind up being a list of things you've done because that information is going to be on your activities list. So that is how they will see it. Does that answer the question?
Um, yeah. And I have another question. Can you apply to colleges and send an ACT score afterwards as long as you submit the essays and the rest of the application first?
Uh, that is not necessarily my field of expertise. I don't want to give the wrong answer, but I believe um, I think you just got to send it out as one package. And there are like you can take there's August SATs, September SATs. You just kind of want to have your SATs or ACTs done before you apply rather than sending them in after you've applied. You just want to send it all together. So,
And I'll also just add the presentation that we have next week about how to pay for college is going to be led by hold on, let me go on camera. Is going to be led by an ISAC core member. ISAC is the Illinois Student Assistance Commission. They are a state agency dedicated to making sure that college is affordable for all students in Illinois. And they can answer a wide variety of other questions related to the overall college application process. So if you have any questions at all about the college application process as a whole, you are welcome to bring them to the presentation next week, which is how to pay for college. But again, the person who will be giving that presentation is going to be able to answer questions about a wide variety of topics.
cool.
Any other questions? Yes, the presentation next week is online. So you can I just popped the event link back into the chat. It's that, how to pay for college online event link. So you can go ahead and click that and you'll be able to register for it next week. It will not be recorded. That session will not be recorded. All right. Any other questions? Please don't be shy if you have something.
Yep. Every question is a good question. All right. Well,
Okay, so I think with that, we will go ahead and end this session. Will, thank you so much.
thank you.
Been a delight to have you. And again, the session was recorded, but I don't know exactly when it will be posted. I will email you all when I have that link for you. Have a wonderful night. If you have any questions, I will stick to the Zoom for just a second because I have to be online and stop the recording, and it's going to take a second. So I'm stopping the recording now.